Hi, welcome to my video. I'm VolleyTank. We're going to be going over some system administrative tasks. The first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to set up an Apache server with HTTPS and PXE boot. But in order to do this, we're going to have to install Red Hat 8, which is pretty simple. So for those of you that know how to do that, you don't have to watch this video. It's not necessary. I'm just going to show you how to walk through the installation, do a couple of different things, and we're going to set up a LVM from the command line, so that you guys will have that knowledge in case you ever do need to do that further down the line. Because sometimes you do have to add disks, you know. So we're going to be setting this up in Proxmox. This is what I use for my home lab. And we're also going to be using pfSense as our gateway. So we're going to create a VM. We're just going to name this RHEL 8. We're going to make sure advanced is on so that we get all of our options we want. Our CD storage is on here, so we'll go ahead and find that. I have a lot on here. I need to clean it up, but you know. We're going to turn the QEMU agent on. That just gives you some monitoring capabilities. It helps you like shut down better and stuff. And we're going to make the BIOS OVMF, so it's UEFI, not really BIOS. The VM will be our storage, and we will use RAW. I like to use RAW for everything, unless I have a specific need. We give 64 gigs. We won't ever use that much, but I have enough spare. CPU, we'll just give it 8, just something basic. And for RAM, probably just give it 4096. I'll take the ballooning device off. I don't really like that. Take the firewall off. We want it to just be straight on the network. That's how my network is set up. And so now we see our virtual machine is created. We're going to go to hardware. I'm actually going to add another hard disk. We're going to go VM. I'm going to make this one 128 just so we have enough room. We can always change it later if we want. We're going to add that. And then we're going to go to this network device, and I'm going to copy this MAC address because we want it to be a static IP. And we could set that up during installation or after if we wanted to. We could set up a static, but I'm going to do it this way. So we're just going to go to services, DHCP server, which is where we're at. We're going to scroll down to our DHCP static mapping. We're going to add that. For our IP address, we're just going to probably use 25, I think is what we should use. Hostname, we can just say RHEL 8. RHEL 8 test server. Sure, why not? We're going to apply changes. Okay, the changes have been applied, so now we can install and tell it to use DHCP, and we'll still get a static IP address. We'll get the one that we want. So we'll just go to console. Go ahead and turn this on. Okay. And we'll get started with the installation here. So we're going to go to install Red Hat, the top option. We don't need to test. We already know how this stuff works. There we go, starting to boot up. It does feel like the Red Hat disk does take a while. All right, so now we're in, and we just want to pick English. You know, you pick whatever you want. I don't know why, but this part always seems to take longer than I feel like it should, setting the language. Whenever you click continue, it just takes a little bit. So we're going to start with doing the disk. We're just going to set up this one. We're going to set the second disk up later after it's installed so you guys can see how to do it from command line. I like to do custom when we're doing disk stuff because I like to kind of set it up. So we'll use LVM, create them automatically. Our root needs to be, doesn't really need to be more than 32, and I like to use ext4. You can use whatever you're comfortable with. I always turn this to 500 because I don't like 600. But you can leave it there. The EFI partition doesn't really need a whole lot. We're going to take our home down to like 16. And then we want to create, we want to take out swap. We don't need swap. We got enough RAM. I don't think swap's really necessary. Some people will tell you otherwise, but I don't believe that we need it. We're going to create a var. I just like to separate this from the root. And we got 6.5, so I mean, you know, we could add that, but it's not necessary. We can add it later if we want to. This should be more than fine for what we want to do. Let's make sure everything is ext4. Oh, found one. Okay. So these, all right, let's update those settings. We'll click done. It'll complain about us not having swap. We're just going to go, you have not specified a swap partition. You're just going to hit close, and you're going to have to hit done again. It's a little unintuitive. So next we're going to connect to Red Hat. So what you want to do is, we got to set up networking first. So we're going to set up the networking, which we can just do RHEL 8, apply that, and then we can turn this on and we should get 0.25. Got it. Easy. Now that we have our network set up, we can register. So you can set up a developer account for free with Red Hat, and I think you get up to 16 basically register 16 servers to them for free. And we can set the purpose. I don't think that you have to. I just like to. Self-support, gonna be development test options. We don't care. And then we just register it. It should link it to our account. Attaching subscription. 1 entitlement consumed. That's good. That's good. Now we just click done. So the installation source is going to change to their CDN, which will download everything. Okay, so now you can see it change to their CDN. So you could, if you wanted to, you could change from the CDN to auto-detected installation media or something on your network if you don't want to download straight from them. But downloading straight from them, if you don't have like data limits and your internet's fast, then you won't have to do any updates after you've installed it. We're going to do a minimal install. We can just do standard guest agents is fine. We don't want a GUI. Let's see, we did that. So I can go over the security policies. So this is just different stuff. So like if you're working with health insurance, like health stuff, you might want a HIPAA policy. If you're working for the government, you might want the DISASTIG. If you're just like playing around, unless you have a reason to be messing with these, I personally wouldn't, because it just makes things a real pain. I mean, if you go in here, let us put this one on, and we need to separate var log audit, var log /temp /var/temp. It installs a bunch of other stuff that makes it more secure. There's a lot of configuration changes that are more secure, but it's going to annoy you. Like there's timeouts in SSH, so if you're SSH'd in and you don't do anything for however long, it'll kick you out, which that may be something you're into, but for the purposes of this, we are not. Root password, you do not have to set the root. You can just create an administrator. I'm just going to make a real simple password. So you could just set up a user account as an administrator, and you can just use sudo. You don't have to have the root set. So we're just gonna double check. Warning, check storage configuration. That's just for our swap. We just begin installation. It's preparing to install. So it's gonna create our partitions and everything, and then it'll go through and download all of our packages. And we just wait for that to do its thing. If your internet's not too bad, you know, this shouldn't take long. It's only a little bit. It'll take longer if you install a GUI, and the more package you install, this will take longer. But doing it from the CDN, like I said earlier, it means that you're not going to have to do a DNF update. Probably should anyways, just in case, you never know. Theoretically, you shouldn't have to do a DNF update after this is installed. Okay, so we're installing our packages now. Linux firmware, we're getting there. So also, when you do have a developer account for Red Hat, they will send you emails and stuff informing you of like vulnerabilities and packages and updates that you should apply. Pretty useful if, you know, you're using this in production. You know, you get an email, you see something, you're like, oh man, we use that. We definitely need to update that. So it looks like it installed bash completion. So if you use the standard packages, it'll install bash completion. If you don't, you know, it's not going to. So that's good though. That is something we want. It makes life a little bit easier. I usually make sure that's installed no matter what, because I personally love my bash completion. We're getting the kernel installed here, so once this is done, you know, it should go way faster. So it does feel like it takes a really long time for this kernel to get installed. Hey, there we go, Kmod. So we're moving along. Okay, so we're installing the bootloader now, so getting close. Honestly, I feel like Debian it installs so much faster. I'm kind of partial to Debian, but you know, I know how to use Red Hat. I'm a system administrator, so that's what we use at my job. I also like to use Fedora so that I kind of like have all the DNF stuff and the way that the Red Hat Fedora ecosystem works. I've always been a little partial to Debian. I did start on Ubuntu back in probably like 2010, I think. 10.04 was the first Ubuntu distro I used, and I used that for a while, and then eventually moved on to Debian, which I prefer over Ubuntu. All right, we're generating the initram fs, so we really are almost done. So yeah, now it's complete, so we'll just reboot the system. We should boot up into Red Hat. Yeah, we're just gonna let this auto boot just like it would. You can click there, saves you a couple seconds. We should get some output here and drop into a login screen. Okay, so we got a login prompt. We can go ahead and try to SSH into our system from over here. Let's do RHEL 8. We'll say yes. We'll type in our very simple password. We will do ls black. So the first thing I'm going to do, you should do is probably update, even though I told you that you shouldn't have to do anything. So it'll just, you know, update the repositories. So it knows what kind of packages it has and what kind it could update. This is just good to do before you go to install anything, so you make sure everything's perfect. So we are going to install Vim, which may already come. Oh yeah, you're right. It's install Vim, which it may already be on there. Okay, we do have Vim enhanced, so that's good. So what we are going to do now is we're going to hit the ls block so we can look at our block devices. Why did I put our boot all the way down here? That's crazy. Maybe I set it up like that, I don't know. Alright, so now that we see our disks, we're actually really done with the Red Hat installation. So if you don't need to set up any more disks, you don't have to, but I'm going to show you guys how to set up an LVM from the command line. We could have done this during installation, but I wanted you guys to be able to see how it's done. So we can go ahead and close out of all this. We don't really need it anymore. Move this to the center. So we're going to go ahead and do a PVS so we can see our, well, let's sudo su first, and we'll do a PVS. We can see our physical volumes. You can also do PV display to see your physical volumes. And then what we want to do is just PV create, and we will pick our target, which is going to be dev/sdb. So now we can see PVS, and through PV display that we have our physical device. So now we need a volume group. So we could just add on to this RHEL volume group, but we're going to make our own. We're going to go VG create name storage, and then we pick our physical device. We're going to have to specify name. So now that we have that, you can see our volume groups. Now we need a logical volume, right? So now we can do LV create, and this is where you specify the name of the logical volume, which for this we'll just use HTTP. We'll just say HTTPS because it's going to be for our web server. And then you do space -L, which is going to be for the size. So let's just say we're going to make it 32 gigs. And then we will pick storage, which is going to tell it what volume group to create that into. So now we can see, we can do an LVS and see our HTTPS storage is 32 gigs, and it is on, you know, the storage volume group. You can do LV display. It'll give you more information about each one of our logical volumes and volume groups. So now that we have that, we do need to mount it. So we don't have Apache installed yet. That's going to be in the next video, but we're going to go ahead and make the directory. So we can do make directory /p, which the -p basically specifies if any directories in the path don't exist, create them. And we need that because www does not exist, neither does HTML. So we can just make them all at once. Now we can open our fstab, which is where our disks are listed. We can do /dev/mapper/storage dash, we made an HTTPS. We will mount it at var/www/html. We want ext4 defaults, and we want 1 and 2. And then we can do mount-a, which is the mount command, and it says to reference our fstab so that we know on boot, okay, we have something wrong. So we'll check out if, yeah, that made it. Let's check out our fstab. What did I fat finger? Oh, so actually, yeah, there's another step that we didn't do. You want to make a file system. You're gonna want a file system. So we'll just make it extended for. Okay, now the mount command should work. All right, and there you go. Yeah, you know, sometimes you forget every single step, but that's okay. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know kind of. So I was able to figure that out pretty quick. But there you go. That's how you create an LVM. So this is going to be used for our storage in the next video for the web server that we're going to set up for PXE booting, and, you know, probably for a lot of other things in the future. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and, you know, come back for more tutorials later. I hope you all enjoy.